Hello everyone, and welcome back to Carrie's Beauty Corner. Oh crap, I forgot my coffee. Hold that thought. Okay, I've only had one cup this morning, so I definitely don't think I can survive without another one. Anyway, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be the first installment in what I am choosing to call True Crime Tuesday. Now, I realize true crime is not everyone's cup of tea. It's probably very self-indulgent of me, but I'm going to combine two things that I love very much, which is true crime. Not that I love to commit true crime, but I do love, oh gosh, how do I put this? I'm always very curious about the backstory, because there's never been a crime committed that there wasn't some sort of backstory to. The backstories intrigue me. The way a criminal mind operates intrigues me. I used to work at a pathology lab when I was younger, and had I known then what I know now, I might have taken a different turn career-wise. I don't know. But anyway, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope that you'll do so before you leave. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Susan Smith. So unless you were under a rock in the 90s, you probably have heard this story. And buckle up, Buttercup, because it's about children, and these are always the toughest stories to tell. So if that's interesting to you and you want to stick around for a little makeup and true crime, that's coming right up. All right, and because I have so much information that I want to get out there to you, I'm not going to talk about the makeup as I apply it. I will have everything listed and linked below for you in the description box. But I want to add as much as I can to this story, hopefully make it interesting for you. So let's jump right in. Now, Susan Smith was born on September 29th, 1971 in Union, South Carolina. And y'all, give me just one second. I'm sorry, I thought I had it all together, and you know how that is. You get it all together and then you forget where you put it. Anyway, by all accounts, she was born into a very tumultuous family. Her parents did not get along. Her father was a very troubled man, and when Susan was 7 years old, her parents divorced, and within several weeks of that divorce, her father committed suicide, and that is said to have really had a very deep and lasting impact on Susan. She became a very distant child. Oh, here I go. Every time I see people do this all the time, and every time I do it, I get it on my shirt. Anyway, she became a very, very distant, kind of a loner child. And then shortly after that, like in a matter of weeks, her mother married a local prominent businessman named Beverly Russell. Yes, it's a man named Beverly. He went by Bev. But anyway, he was, I think he dabbled in politics. He was a prominent businessman and a member of the Christian Coalition. So I think her mother basically felt like she hit the jackpot with him, because he had money. He was willing to take her daughter in and be, you know, what she hoped would be a good stepfather. Actually, I don't think she cared, but Anyway, they say that's what her thoughts were. So, by the age of about 16, Mr. Russell began sexually molesting Susan. Now, I've read several accounts of the molestation. Some accounts say that the intercourse did not start at that particular time, that the intercourse came later, but he did start fondling her and I don't know, whatever else you do when you sexually molest a teenager. But it also said that she kind of came out of her shell in high school, that she was voted most friendliest, and joined several clubs, and just kind of came into her own, which I find incredibly strange, because usually victims of molestation are, well, they either go two ways. They either are really completely outgoing and do everything they can to try to cover that up, or they completely revert into themselves. So I guess Susan must have chosen the extrovert path and really came into her own. When Susan graduated from high school, she went to work at the local Winn-Dixie, where she met David Smith. Now, David Smith, by all accounts, still lived at home, and I have not found anything about David Smith that would contradict that he was just an all-in-all good old Southern boy. And I don't know that he and Susan were in love as much as they were in lust, because they were quite young. And then Susan found out that she was pregnant, and they decided to marry. And that was probably not the best decision for them, because what's the old saying? You don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Well, they decided to get married, but they ended up having to move in with David's parents. And of course, that was not at all what Susan saw for her life, but it was all they had. I mean, that was it. It was all they had. Then within a very, very short period of them moving in with David's parents, David's father attempted suicide. Don't ask me what that was about. So anyway, that didn't work out very well. And it didn't really give me a timeline. I could not find the timeline on how long they did live there. It said the mother packed up her crap and moved away. So I don't know if that meant that David and Susan lived in the house by themselves. I'm not really sure. But anyway, they had married in March of 91, and then Michael was born in October of 91. Now, all right, he was born in October of 91. And of course, as most women do, they believe, oh, I just had the most beautiful little baby boy. This is going to bring me and my husband closer together. We're going to live happily ever after. But that is far from what happened. Instead of it bringing them close together, it really, really, it put a financial strain on them. Not that they weren't already struggling. Anyway, long story short, things did not do well. Well, they ended up separating. Let's see, when did they separate? They separated in early 82, and they both started dating other people, which that seems to be Susan's MO, as you'll later find out. But they were dating other people, and then Susan ends up pregnant. Now, I don't know how they knew that this was David's baby, but apparently they did know it was his baby. And in late 82, they reconciled, and baby Alex was born in August of 93. They were together for about another month. And then David said, no, it doesn't matter, baby or no baby. I can't live with you. And he moved out for the final time. Now, they didn't divorce, but they did separate for the final time about a month after Alex was born. So, Susan found herself a nice bookkeeping job. Now, the owner of this company was a man by the name of Finley. William Finley, I believe. And his son was Tom Finley. Now, apparently Tom Finley was one of the most eligible bachelors in Union. And Susan set her sights on him right away. Susan worked her way up to the executive secretary of his father, and was really trying to make a name for herself in this company. But most everything that she did to get the attention of Tom Finley. Now, she and Tom Finley started, I say dating, I would say it was way more casual than dating, because Susan took it to be way more serious than what Tom took it to be. Susan was seriously busy planning a future with this man, little known to him. But that was her ultimate goal, was to have a future with him. Now, she told David that she wanted a divorce. I don't know that she told him necessarily about Tom Finley, but she did tell him that she wanted a divorce, that it wasn't going to work, it was over, and that was that. The whole time this is going on, she's planning this future in her head with Tom Finley. She supposedly is still sleeping with David. The rumor is that she slept with Tom Finley's father to get that position in the company. And that's a rumor. I don't know that there's any definitive proof, but that was the rumor within the company. I don't know that it was because people were jealous or whatever. But Susan was still being promiscuous with other men as well. She had attended a big, I don't know if it was a barbecue, I don't know, but it was some big get-together at his father's estate, and was with Tom Finley. You know, they attended this together, and he ended up catching her kissing some dude in the hot tub while she was supposedly there with him. So this chick just didn't quit. I mean, seriously, she just she didn't have a clue. She really didn't have a clue. So let's see when it was. It was, I guess it was around October. Yeah, I guess it was, because it was just a little bit before the incident occurred. Tom Finley wrote Susan what they call a Dear John letter. Now, I don't know if any of you know what a Dear John letter is, but basically it's a breakup letter. And I think that term was coined back in the war, when soldiers would get a letter from home from their girlfriends, you know, Dear John, I've met somebody else, blah blah blah. So Dear John is basically just another name for a breakup letter. But y'all, I want to go ahead and read this breakup letter to you, because it will give you a good feel for what David was feeling at the time. Okay, here is the letter that he wrote to her. Now, I don't think a letter is the way to go, but this was not the news that Susan wanted to get from Tom Finley, so the delivery didn't really matter. This is just not the news that she wanted to get. Dear Susan, this is a difficult letter for me to write because I know how much you think of me, and I want you to know that I'm flattered that you have such a high opinion of me. Susan, I value our friendship very much. You are one of a few people on this earth that I feel I can tell anything. You're intelligent, beautiful, sensitive, understanding, and possess many wonderful qualities that I and many other men appreciate. You will, without a doubt, make some lucky man a great wife, but unfortunately, it won't be me. Even though you think we have much in common, we are vastly different. We've been raised in two totally different environments and therefore think totally different. For my first 2 years in Union, I dated very little, but then Laura came along. We met at CONSO, that's his father's company, and I fell for her like a ton of bricks. Well, even though I fell in love with Laura, I had my doubts about a long and lasting commitment, but I never said anything, and I eventually hurt her very deeply. I won't do that again. Susan, I really could fall for you. But like I've told you before, there are some things about you that aren't suited for me. And yes, I'm speaking about your children. I'm sure that your kids are good kids, but it really wouldn't matter how good they are. The fact is, I don't want children. These feelings may change one day, but I doubt it. With all the crazy mixed up things that take place in this world today, I just don't have the desire to bring another life into it. And I don't want to be responsible for anyone else's children. But I'm thankful that there are people like you who are not as selfish as I am and don't mind bearing the responsibility of children. But our differences go beyond the children issue. We're just two totally different people, and eventually those differences would cause us to break up. But don't be discouraged. There is someone out there for you. In fact, it's probably someone that you may already know and never expected. Either way, before you settle down with anyone, there's something you need to do. Susan, because you got pregnant and married at such an early age, you missed out on much of your youth. I mean, one minute you were a kid and the next minute you were having kids. Because I come from a place where everyone has the desire and the money to go to college, having the responsibility of children at such a young age is beyond my comprehension. Anyhow, my advice to you is to wait and be very choosy about your next relationship. I can see that this is going to be a bit difficult for you because you are a bit boy crazy. But as the proverb states, good things come to those who wait. I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and have a good time. In fact, I think you should do just that. But just don't get seriously involved with anyone until you've done the things in life that you ought to. Susan, I'm not mad at you about what happened this weekend. That was her kissing another man. Actually, I'm very thankful. As I told you, I was starting to let my heart warm up to the idea of going out with you for more than just friends. But seeing you kiss another man put things in perspective. I remember how I hurt Laura, and I won't let that happen again, and therefore I can't let myself get close to you. And as for your relationship with B. Brown, it was reportedly a man named Benji Brown. You have made your own decision in life, but remember, you have to live with the consequences also. Everyone is held accountable for their actions, and I would hate for people to perceive you as an unreputable person. If you want to catch a nice guy like me one day, you'll have to act like a nice girl. And you know, nice girls don't sleep with married men. Besides, I want you to feel good about yourself, and I'm afraid that if you sleep with B. Brown or any other married man for that matter, you will lose your self-respect. And I know that when we were seeing each other earlier this year, or I know I did when we were seeing each other earlier this year, I care for you, but I also care for Susan Brown, and I would hate to see anyone get hurt. Anyway, he says at 11, it's 11:50 and I'm very sleepy. Again, you'll always have my friendship, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's nothing wrong with the letter that he wrote. I thought that, I thought it was fairly kind. He kind of let her down easy. You know, he said what he needed to say. He let her down easy, but he let her down. And he tried to point out that her promiscuity was a problem for him, and that she needed to get all that out of her system before she tried to settle down with someone. Which that wouldn't have been the advice I would have given her. I would have said, hey, you need to take care of your kids and let your kids be your priority. But clearly, him not being a kid person, he didn't, you know, that wasn't his, you know, that wasn't really his thinking. But anyway, that was mine. So, Susan confronted him about the letter, thinking that she could change his mind. She did not change his mind. I'm going to put some lashes on, and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. So, around 8 p.m., on October 25th, 1994, Susan Smith strapped her barefoot little boys into their car seats and got behind the wheel and began to drive. Now, it is said that she was going to commit suicide. And why in the hell all these stories always start with, well, I was going to kill myself? No, you weren't. No, you weren't. Because if you were going to, you would have. And you would have left those children in safety, and you would have done that. But anyway, I digress. So she goes to John D. Long Lake. She pulls up on the ramp. She pulls up the emergency brake. And she said she sat there for a minute. And she put it in drive and released the brake. And then she stopped. Said she did it 2 times. And on the 3rd time, she got out and released the brake. And she stood there and watched that car roll in to the water with those 2 beautiful babies in it. Now, I don't remember. I will put it up on the screen because I can't remember exactly how many minutes they said it took for the car to actually go underwater. But she had time to do something about it. So, I don't know if she concocted the story on the spot or if she had already concocted the story, but she runs to the house of Shirley and Rick McLeod, and she's beating hysterically on their door, and she tells them that she was carjacked by an African-American man at a stoplight, and she could hear the children screaming for her help. So of course they call 911. I don't know exactly how everything went down, but what I do know for a fact is that for 9 days, this woman lied. She lied to the media. She lied to law enforcement. She lied to her ex-husband. She lied to everyone about what happened to those children. And it was, the lead investigator was Sheriff Howard Wells, and he was an amazing guy, as was the prosecutor. I don't know, they figured something out, and I don't know all the logistics, but they figured out that in order for this particular traffic light to, she said she was by herself, there weren't any other cars around, but according to them, that there was no way for that traffic light to have been red if she was the only one there. I don't know how they figure all that out. It's way above my head. But anyway, he started figuring out that her story, just every time she told it, it just made less and less sense. And of course, let's not even talk about what it did to race relations in this southern South Carolina town, by accusing a black man that did not exist of kidnapping her children, who were in fact not kidnapped. So there was that. Once she finally confessed, there had been searches of this lake prior to her confession, but she was able to give them more of a specific distance, so then they were able to find them. And y'all, they said when they found the car, there was a little hand pressed up against the window. How do you do that? How do you do that? Not for a man, not for money, not for any reason. How do you do that? It doesn't compute in my head that there would ever be any reason. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a minute. The girl was messed up. The girl needed help. I can't imagine anyone being in her life and not knowing how much help she needed. But she never got the help that she needed. They said that when she was in her marriage to David, she was having a full-blown sexual relationship with her stepfather. She tried to get help in high school. She tried to turn him in high school, and the mother would not cooperate. The mother was like, oh, but what would that do to our family's reputation? I mean, she really did try to get help when she was younger, but the mother did not help her whatsoever. So she didn't know what love was. Is that an excuse? No, absolutely not. Not an excuse. But the girl was sick. She was very, very, very sick. And I don't know that she's any better today. The story is that she's behaving herself, but she contracted a sexually transmitted disease, and 2 guards were reprimanded for having sex with her since she's been in prison over these last 20 years. So, anyway, I don't know. I don't know how well she is. But the one happy thing to come out of this story is that David Smith did remarry, and he does have 2 beautiful children, a little girl and a little boy. And Susan was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. She got 30 years to life, and David Smith has vowed to attend every parole hearing to make sure that she doesn't get out. He wanted her to get the death penalty, but I think the death penalty would have been too good for her, and I think that her having to live with what she did every day is a more appropriate punishment for what she did. Just saying. So, anyway, there's the story of Susan Smith. So I hope that you enjoyed a little makeup and true crime today. I'll be back here on Thursday for a comparison. I want to talk about the old Walking on Eggshells versus the new Walking on Eggshells. So that's coming up on Thursday. So as always, thank you for watching. Have a blessed and beautiful afternoon. Love you guys.